My name is Tandisiwe Ntlokwana from Waibanjwa Senior Secondary School. Welcome to the ECDOE Broadcast Studio. Today's lesson is about sustainable and responsible tourism. I will be covering this topic for your full understanding. So this topic is assessed in question 8 in the examination paper. We need to look at the definition of sustainable and responsible tourism. So sustainable and responsible tourism is travel that minimizes negative environmental impacts, respects local cultures, and supports local economies while ensuring that resources are available for future generations. So there are 3 pillars of sustainable and responsible tourism. And these pillars are economic, which is also known as the profit, social, which is also referred to as the people, and environmental, which is also referred to as the planet. These pillars are also referred to as the triple bottom line approach. Sometimes they will be known as the 3 elements of sustainable tourism. So a balance between the triple bottom line elements leads to sustainable and responsible tourism, which simply means that there must be a balance between the economy, the environmental, and the social pillar for sustainable and responsible tourism to occur. We'll look at each of these pillars into details. Let's start with the environmental impacts, which is also referred to as the planet. Good environmental practices are important to protect the natural environment. Let us look at the examples of good environmental practices. The first one is resource management, which refers to management or conservation of energy and water. The second one is waste management. The third one is litter control. Another example of good environmental practices is pollution control, followed by environmentally friendly building.
I think you are confused environmentally friendly. Okay. You can continue, ma'am. Can you stop?
Okay. Pollution control, environmentally friendly building, promotion of indigenous flora, and control of alien invasive plants in grounds and gardens. Let us look at resource management, that is management or conserving water and energy. So resource management refers to the way in which scarce and limited resources such as water and energy are managed. Now we'll look at how water use can be reduced in tourism. Now, how businesses can reduce their water usage. Businesses can fix leaking taps. They can use grey water system for watering gardens. They can use indigenous plants in gardens. So that is how tourism businesses can conserve or can manage water usage. I want us to look at how tourism businesses can conserve energy usage. We will remember, viewers, that the supply of energy is limited. This applies to energy in the form of fossil fuels such as petrol, diesel, and coal, and energy in the form of electricity. Now, I want us to look at how businesses can reduce energy usage in the tourism industry. So businesses can switch off all unused electrical appliances in unoccupied rooms. They can use energy efficient light bulbs in buildings. They can reduce hot water geyser temperature. They can make use of solar energy, insulate hot water pipes. This is how businesses can reduce energy usage. Remember, we said energy is one of the scarce and limited resources. We are still discussing the first impact, which is the environmental impact in the triple bottom line approach. I want us to look at waste management. Waste management refers to management of the amount of waste. Now, in order for businesses to manage their waste, they need to apply the 3 R's. And these 3 R's are reduce, reuse, and recycle. I want us to look at the first R, which is reuse, how tourism businesses can reduce waste. So the first thing that they can do, they can use electronic systems of communication, such as emails. They can buy supplies in large quantities to reduce packaging. They can use tap water instead of bottled water. This is how tourism businesses can manage their waste, can reduce their waste. Let's look at another R, which is reuse. So tourism businesses need to enter into a direct return supplier packaging waste agreements for suitable, reusable, refillable items and cans and glass bottles, etc. Let us look at recycle, which is the third R of waste management. So tourism businesses need to provide separate plastic, glass, and paper waste bins for their guests. They need to use organic waste, such as vegetable peels and fruit skins, for composting. They also need to reuse printed pages that are no longer needed by printing on the other side of the page for internal office use. This is a picture of a recycling facility or recycle bins that need to be provided by the tourism businesses. Let us look at litter control. Litter control is the reduction or avoidance of litter. Tourists should be encouraged not to litter, and tourism organizations should ensure that they provide enough rubbish bins to encourage tourists to place their litter in the correct bins for recycling. Here is a sign that can be used by tourism establishments to make sure that they show their tourists that they do practice sustainable and responsible tourism, and they encourage their tourists or their guests to place their rubbish in the bins provided. I want us to look at pollution control. Remember, pollution can be in the form of air pollution, land pollution, and water pollution. Tourism organizations should use environmentally friendly products where possible. Certain waste, such as motor oil, batteries, electronic waste, etc., should be handled by professional waste management companies. Another example of good and environmental practices is building or designing environmentally friendly buildings. Let us look at what are the environmentally friendly buildings. So environmentally friendly buildings is the construction of new buildings such as hotels, which are designed to have minimal negative impact both during and once the buildings are operational. So local material and natural light should be used when designing these buildings. Remember, we're saying they are the environmentally friendly buildings. So the buildings need to blend with what? With nature, especially if the building is designed in a natural area. This is an example of an environmentally friendly building, which is designed or built using wood. Let us look at promotion of indigenous flora and control of alien and invasive plants in grounds and gardens. Alien invasive plants are plants that do not occur naturally in a particular area. They grow out of control, affecting the indigenous flora. They use a lot of water than indigenous plants. And some of these alien invasive plants are poisonous. That is why now it is encouraged that tourism businesses or accommodation establishments, they must make sure that they make use of indigenous flora in their gardens, because alien invasive plants use a lot of water, whereas the indigenous plants use less water. This is an example of an indigenous flora in a garden, which is the aloe. So all these that I have mentioned, they are examples of good environmental practices which form part of the environmental pillar. Remember, the environmental pillar is one of the 3 elements of sustainable tourism. I want us now to look at the second pillar, which is the economy, which is sometimes called the profit. We'll look at the role of business. So tourism businesses have a responsibility towards the community and the environment in which they operate. They should not exploit people or the environment for profit. The involvement of the local community in tourism activities should take place in a way that preserves their dignity. Now, I want us to look at the ways to manage economic impacts. And we'll be looking at ownership. It is very important that government encourages and promotes local tourism business ownership. If the tourism businesses are owned by the people outside of the destination, they'll take their profits out of the city, they'll take their profits out of the province or out of the country. And this is called the economic leakage, and we do not want that. So when money that is generated in an area does not benefit the local community and no longer circulates in the region where it was generated, this is called the leakage. This is the economic leakage that we do not want. So that is why it is very important that local ownership of businesses is encouraged so that the economic leakage is avoided. Let us look at employment. We are still dealing with the economic pillar of sustainable and environmental, sustainable and responsible tourism. Okay, so employing the local residents is important to ensure that the economic benefits of tourism remain in the destination. Procurement of local goods and services. Through the procurement of local goods and services, local suppliers, tourism businesses are sharing the economic benefits of tourism with the other businesses at the destination. Now, that is why it is important that tourism businesses should make sure that they buy goods and services from the locally owned businesses to manage the economic impacts and the economic activities so as to avoid the economic leakage that we have spoken about. Buying goods from other areas will result in money generated from tourism leaking out of the tourism businesses. I want us to look at the social pillar, which is also known as the people. So the social pillar has got positive and negative impacts. I want us to first look at the positive impacts. So one of the positive impacts is that tourism creates awareness of different traditions, cultures, and art forms. So this simply means, I will just make an example. Let's say I am a Zulu and I decide to visit the Eastern Cape, which has a majority of the Xhosa cultural group. So when I visit the Eastern Cape, I'll be able to learn their culture, their traditions, and their customs. So that is why we say tourism creates awareness of different cultures and traditions. Another positive impact is that tourism creates an understanding between people of different cultures, and local community learn to take pride in their culture. Let us look at the negative social impacts. So one of the negative social impacts is that there may be crime and violence. There may be an increase of crime and violence, and cultural changes may occur as the locals may adopt the culture of tourists instead of valuing their own. That is negative because culture needs to be preserved for future generation. Another negative impact is that the money generated by tourism may not feed into the local community. That is the economic leakage we spoke about earlier on. Another impact which is negative is that sometimes privacy is not respected. So these are the negative social impacts. Remember, I said they can be negative, they can be positive. I want us now to look at the corporate social investment. We need to know the acronym CSI stands for corporate social investment. What is corporate social investment? It's whereby businesses, they now contribute to the communities in which they operate. So when businesses contribute to the community in which they operate, This is called corporate social investment. So CSI or corporate social investment can be financial or can be through non-financial contributions. I want us to look at the examples of financial contributions. So financial contributions can be made for community projects related to healthcare, related to sport and recreation facilities. They can be made through education or to education and youth empowerment. Let's look at the non-financial contributions. They may include volunteer work by company representatives in the community. They may include donations of equipment. They may include furniture for the community projects. Let's summarize our topic. Remember, viewers, we spoke about sustainable and responsible tourism. And we mentioned that it is about conserving natural resources for future generations. And sustainable and responsible tourism involves the triple bottom line approach, that is social pillar, which is also referred to as the people, the economic pillar, which is known as the profit, and the environmental pillar, which is known as the planet. So for sustainable and responsible tourism to occur, there must be a balance between all the three elements, that is economy, social, and environmental. Remember, we also spoke about the environmental impacts. We looked at the three elements of sustainable tourism into details, whereby under environmental impacts, we spoke about the good environmental practices such as resource management, that is conserving water and energy. And again, under environmental impact, we spoke about waste management, which includes the 3 R's: reduce, reuse, and recycle. We have mentioned litter control, which is tourism businesses. We say that they must provide rubbish bins for their tourists to manage litter. Pollution control, which includes waste management by the companies. We've spoken about environmentally friendly buildings, whereby we said tourism businesses need to use local material and natural light when designing or constructing these buildings. Promotion of indigenous flora and control of alien invasive plants. You'll remember that we said it is encouraged that tourism businesses use indigenous flora, as indigenous flora uses less water. Looking at the economic impacts, we have discussed about the role of businesses, whereby we said businesses need to involve the locals in tourism activities. We have spoken about ownership, whereby we said it is important that government encourages local ownership to manage the economic activities. Procurement of local goods and services to avoid economic leakage. We have also mentioned the social impacts, and we said there are negative and positive social impacts. Let us just recap. We've spoken about the positive social impacts, whereby we said tourism creates awareness of different cultural groups. The negative impacts, we said there may be an increase in crime and violence. Then we have discussed about CSI, which we said CSI stands for Corporate Social Investment. And we said it's the process whereby businesses give back to the communities in which they operate. They can either give donations that can be financial or non-financial. Shout out to Indipile Mvandodwa from Jet Nteyo SOS. Another shout out to Mpumela Mhlauli from Ngwaibanjwa Senior Secondary School, who's doing grade 12. A shout out again to Jojo Zilikona from Zibokwana High School. Shout out to Amahle Mbata from Zibokwana High School. Also a shout out to Liliso Miendeki, who is doing grade 12 at Zibokwana High School. We have come to the end of our lesson. You can leave your questions on the comments. Don't forget to leave the name of your school so we give shout outs. Please share, recommend, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thank you for watching. See you on our next lesson.